got some student loans, they sent me away to the land of the dead where I didn't know a word that they said. I got shot at a lot, I was nearly toast, but it's the ones I killed that hurts the most. Most of the time I didn't know what was going on. The rest of the time I knew there was something going wrong. Every reason we were there turned out to be a lie. I thought of that each time I saw another person die. I was supposed to stay a year. They sent me for 4. By the time I got back home, no one knew me anymore. Of the man I once was, there didn't seem to be a trace. And when I looked me in the mirror, I didn't recognize my face. I wasn't home too long before the time that I took ill. It was like the air was thick as mud, and I ate enough to kill. I didn't know I'd been fighting in a nuclear war. The evil was in my blood, and I was knocking on death's door. I can't tell you how it felt to be betrayed at every turn. Like earth is spinning backwards, like my heart began to burn, like I had to do something while I still had the strength to stand.
You are one of the refugees from the States?
Yes, I'm one of the U.S. soldiers. I've come up here. I came in September of 2007, and I'm up here doing everything I can to be able to stay here.
So this petition is asking the government of Canada to change the laws?
Yes, it's asking them to introduce a bill that would allow war resistors to come here and stay and become citizens and be granted the rights of a citizen. So,
how is the public responding so far?
So far it's been a pretty strong show of support. You have a lot of people that just are in a hurry and walk by and don't really pay attention, but the people that do stop are I haven't had anybody tell me they disagree yet, so it's been pretty good.
In general, they're very supportive.
Most definitely, most definitely.
I'm Ricky the Recruiter, and we're going to work together to recruit America and Canada's next generation for the war in the Middle East. We need some youth to practice our recruitment techniques on. You all have some rationales in your head in the battle of the story about why the hell we're in Afghanistan? Got some good stories, right? Okay. So, where's a young person? I don't see anyone. Oh, there's a few young people out there. You know, and we've gotten a little desperate in the U.S., and so we're actually recruiting people up to the age of 60 now. Yo, what up? Hey, I think it's a youth. Excuse me, Mr. Youth. Have you ever considered a career in the United States military? You know, just serve for a year or two, and you can quit if you don't like it, and $20,000 bonus, and you know, you can learn to cook or be a musician. It'll be cool. Just sign the contract. Well, never really thought about it, but I'm reading your contract, and I just have a few questions, Mr. Recruiter. See, it says that you said just for a year or two, and I could quit, but it says on the contract 8 years. What's up with that? Also, it says that anything you promise me is null and void, and that any promises could change, including my pay, my job, anything like that. Let's talk about $20,000 bonus, kid. Well, you know, I'm a pretty conscious puppet, and, you know, having troops in Afghanistan halfway across the world, and the U.S. having, you know, 700 bases, 130 other people's country don't want them, creates blowback. That means people get pissed, and it makes you less secure, and it sucks resources out of communities to make it secure here at home. So, I think you're being played, Mr. Recruiter. Look it, just sign the contract. If I don't get my quota of recruits this month, I'm gonna have to go back to Iraq, okay? Can you please just sign? Hey, Mr. Recruiter, what was you before you as a recruiter? Oh, you know, I wanted to be like a spoken word performer and change the world and, you know, talk consciousness and truth to people. But then, you know, I needed a job and it's high school and it's kind of a tough situation, so here I am. But anyway, hey, you know, I'm with this group called Stop the War, and we have a poetry slam every week, and you should come check it out. And also, you know, if you want to go AWOL and, you know, check out Canada or something like that, we'll have your back. There's actually tens of thousands of soldiers going AWOL all over the place. And the Canadians are going to start doing it too. So you want to just sign this clipboard here, and I'll put you on our listserv, and we'll let you know about our poetry slams, and we'll have your back, and we can counsel you about what you want to do. Promise you won't tell anyone? Yeah, I promise. Okay, I'll sign.
Canadians were very clear about their feelings about the war in Iraq. Canadians know that it's an illegal war.
And the Canadian government even refused to participate in that illegal war in Iraq. Now we've seen American war resistors, people of conscience, coming here because they refused to serve in that illegal war. They know the lie that it was predicated upon. One of the lies was the lie about weapons of mass destruction, which we know never existed. We know that those people who have come here saying that they can no longer serve in those armed forces in that war are people of conscience. And people of conscience should always be welcome in Canada. We know the incredible contribution that they can make to our country. We know that they deserve refuge when they're being persecuted for their beliefs. So they should have a welcome here. And we've seen it before. Canada did it during the Vietnam period, where we welcomed 100,000 people who left the United States because of their convictions about the war. And many of whom, over half of whom, stayed to be part of this country and contribute to our society. So Canadians want to have the courage of Canadian convictions when it comes to the war in Iraq. And supporting the war resistors in Canada is one way we can do that. Now we need a particular program to allow them to do that. That's why I've tabled in last Parliament and in this Parliament a motion in the House of Commons that would set up a particular program, a special program, to land American war resistors here in Canada when they've left the armed forces because they can no longer serve in that war. We need a special program. Now, unfortunately, the other parties haven't come on board or have been slow to move on that. I also tried moving that same motion at the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration, and twice it was voted down at that committee. Both times there were only 2 votes in support, mine and Andrew Talegdi, a Liberal member, a progressive Liberal member from Kitchener-Waterloo. Now recently, Olivia Chow, who's now on that committee on behalf of the NDP, has worked in concert with the war resistors support movement across the country to build support with other members on that committee. And just before Christmas, a motion was passed calling for a special program for American war resistors to be able to remain here in Canada. So that motion is now passed. I think it's been reported back to the House, and we could even have a vote in the House for concurrence in that. So I think we're set up to ask the House to express an opinion, but we need to move more members of the House to support that motion. We need to move Liberal and Bloc Québécois members in particular, because in the past they have not been willing to support that motion. So that's the work and the job in front of us now, is to make sure that we can find that support, particularly among Liberal and Bloc members. We also have to press on the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration to stop the deportation action against the current war resistors whose cases have been going through. And I've always been completely frustrated that information about the illegal war, the illegal nature of the war in Iraq, could not have been presented at their refugee hearings. We'll look for every opportunity and across party lines to get some kind of action in Parliament. There's lots of work ahead of us, but I'm proud to stand in solidarity with men and women of conscience from the United States and all of you who are working for this justice and this measure of fairness.
I think that next election, when the politicians are running for office, this should be one of the main issues.
Well, I think the issue of war in general should be one of the main issues, whether it's the war in Afghanistan, whether it's, the military budget in Canada compared to the housing budget. I think the whole agenda of war should be one of the prime issues in the debate.
And also the war rejectors from the States, their immigration status here.
Well, I think it fits in with the whole debate around immigration, but on this front, I think people have a moral duty to stand up and say people that refuse to fight in war should have a safe haven somewhere. And I know that there's pressure from all kinds of different people in society, activists from the War Resistors Support Campaign, to make sure that this is an issue on the agenda of politicians, right? And that's one of the reasons of petitioning, is to show politicians and the powers that be that this campaign isn't a small campaign, that it has broad support, and that part of that broad support is not just support for war resistors, but in opposition to the war in Iraq as well.
All right, anything else that you wanted to say?
Call your member of parliament and ask them to support the motion before it comes to the House at the end of April.